All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about Uranium Royalty Corp. That is stock ticker UROY. This company has a unique business model. This is a nuclear energy play in the clean energy sector. And as you guys know, we do a lot of clean energy on this channel. We've covered a lot of electric vehicle, particularly the small caps. We've covered some solar companies. In addition to that, we just did a video on a hydrogen energy play. So this is very familiar territory to us. However, I will say I've not done a deep dive on uranium and nuclear. We've talked about this a lot on the channel, but this is my first deep dive. This is actually a sponsored video, so please check the disclaimer below to a link that fully explains all that. But when I was presented with this opportunity, I wanted to take it because this is right in our wheelhouse on this channel. So I did do a deep dive on this, and I found out a lot of very, very interesting information, some of which I was totally shocked by. So I do think there's a big opportunity here. I really wanted to go through and bring a video to you guys and go through both the Uranium Royalty Corporation and the situation with uranium in North America, and most specifically the United States, because like I said, there's some numbers in here that I found absolutely shocking. So let's get right to it. Okay, so if we look at their stock, this is a $2.37 stock. They're a $230 million market cap company. This company technically is pre-revenue, although they have a lot of assets that have appreciated. And I'm going to explain all of their sources of revenue because this company does something a little bit different than everybody else. And it's in the early stages, but I think there's a massive, massive growth potential for this. Okay, so this is their website, Uranium Royalty Corp. Investing in URC. Uranium Royalty Corp is the first and only pure play uranium royalty company. So they're doing something that right now nobody else is doing. They have first mover advantage in this, and they have a lot of relationships already set up in this. We will take a look at their financial statements and management's discussion and go through some of those relationships. Uranium Royalty is focused on gaining exposure to uranium prices by making strategic investments in uranium interests, including royalties, streams, debt, and equity in uranium companies, as well as through physical uranium transactions. The company's strategy recognizes the inherent cyclicality of valuations based on uranium prices, including the availability of capital and different pricing environments. So they do several different things here. They have three main different sources of what I will say income and growth are over the long term, one of which is royalties, and they are the only ones with uranium royalties. So royalties is a very common business practice. It is also common throughout other precious metals that are mined like gold, but nobody has gone into this on the uranium side of things. So they are the first ones in. So again, that's first mover advantage, and they already have a lot of relationships set up. So again, we'll take a look at that list later. Okay, so this is a slide from their investor presentation, and I just want to show you a few things because there's a gigantic shift going on in uranium right now. I'm going to show you this, and then I want to show you some numbers supporting this. Okay, so there's never been more support for uranium. U.S. uranium mining and nuclear energy enjoys historic support in Washington, D.C. So first bullet point, bipartisan support for nuclear energy, all-time high in public support with Democrat and Republican voters now equally in favor of nuclear energy. So this is something that everybody should know about. This is a very clean source of energy. It has had so much FUD over a 30 or 40 year period, but people are now coming around to realize the benefits. And as we have a giant push to move away from fossil fuels, that is going to take time. And it's going to take more than one source of energy to replace that. So the infrastructure is already set up and in place for this. We just really need to get it back up and running. So we'll go into some more of the details on that. The second bullet point, Biden administration wants congressional approval allowing Department of Energy to purchase $4.3 billion of domestic uranium. So I'm going to take a time out and show you something about domestic uranium because they're talking about purchasing $4.3 billion of that. This is from the U.S. Energy Information Administration webpage. So this is at EIA.gov. Third quarter 2022, U.S. production of uranium in the third quarter of 2022 totaled 3,245 pounds. That's down 46% from the second quarter of 2022. This quarter's production occurred at 3 facilities. So there's only 3 facilities that were even up and running and mining uranium in the United States in the third quarter of 2022. And when you see how much uranium we need and use in the United States, you're going to be shocked that we are only mining 3,245 pounds in a a quarter. So I want to go to that number. So right here are all the sources of where we get uranium. And this is not updated. The chart that I just showed you before is more up to date. This says we get 5% of our production from the United States, but it's actually significantly less than that. But what I really wanted to show you from this is owners and operators of U.S. nuclear power reactors purchased the equivalent of about 46.74 million pounds of uranium. We just produced 3,000 pounds in Q3 of 2022. So that is not 5%. That's not even 1%. We are now essentially importing almost 100% of our uranium. So you can see the United States government does not like that. It's one of many supply chain issues that the United States and North America is really trying to sort out, and I think Europe is going through the same situation. You can see the top producers: Kazakhstan 35%, Canada 15%, Australia 14%, Russia 14%. So those are the big four. The United States really isn't even on the list, and we have one of the larger supplies of uranium in the world. So, okay, so the next bullet point, if we go back to this from their investor presentation, bipartisan infrastructure bill signed into law that provides a $6 billion nuclear credit program for qualifying nuclear plants with priority given to reactors using uranium produced in the United States. So again, uranium produced in the United States. I just showed you right now there is no uranium produced in the United States. So the relationships that the Uranium Royalty Corporation have set up with all of these uranium miners in North America, these are already set. They're the only ones who have these royalty relationships. And you can see there's a massive push from the U.S. government to get these online and get production back up in the United States. So, there's the potential, if we can just get back to previous levels, we could go from producing 3,000 pounds a quarter to, back to 5 million pounds a year. And there's the potential really to even do a lot more than that. Okay, the U.S. has set a goal to reach 100% carbon pollution-free electricity by 2035. Nuclear energy, absolutely essential. That is from the U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. There was $6 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act set aside for what they're talking about is uranium produced in the United States. So this is a very clean source of energy. The United States is embracing this, I think, as is the world. So the United States has the world's largest reactor fleet, and we produce almost none. So, one of the things they're talking about, this is a national security concern, and it's also just straight up a supply chain concern. You'll see that's become one of the most talked about words over the last 2 or 3 years. The supply chain is broken on a lot of items, and in situations just exactly like this, that companies are now scrambling, and in this situation, with the help of the U.S. government, are now scrambling to try to change so that the supply chain is a little bit closer to home. Okay, there is one analyst that covers this. It's H.C. Wainwright. So in August, they had a price target of $5.70. I will tell you, since then, they updated that in October to $5.90. This is a stock that's trading for $2.37 right now, so that's more than 100 upside potential to that price target. Again, I have to reiterate, as I always do, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy this company or sell this company, but I do think this is a company that I have added it to my watch list. You can see there's a lot of shocking statistics surrounding this industry, and I think there's a massive potential for growth here. Okay, so if I go into their management's discussion that went along with their financial statements at July 31st, 2022, here is their asset portfolio. Here's their royalties. So you can see this is a long list of royalty situations that they already have set up with mining companies. All but one of these mining companies are in the United States or Canada. So they do have this one in Africa. The remainder are in the US and Canada. So these are the exact type of companies that are going to get subsidies from the United States. And again, that was a $6 billion that's set aside to try and buy U.S. mined uranium. So to a certain extent, the spot price of uranium isn't even the biggest issue for this company. The fact is there's going to be a lot of uranium coming online, a lot of uranium mining coming online in North America, and they already have royalty deals set up. So these royalty deals are just income streams, and they're recurring revenue. They're set. If we look at their balance sheet, they have inventories. They own $82 million of uranium. That's about 1.5 million pounds of uranium. And again, to put it in perspective, we just mined about 3,000 pounds as a nation last quarter. So they own 1.5 million pounds themselves. They have relationships and agreements already set up to buy more uranium over time. So they get to play that angle. And in addition to that, they have short-term investments. They have investments in some large uranium companies. And there's almost a little bit of a double dip because some of these they have percent ownership in addition to that, they have a royalty agreement as well. So as these mines get operational, and some of these mines are very big, there's a massive potential amount of income stream here. The other thing I want to talk about that I'd like to look at is strength of balance and cash runway. You know, it doesn't matter how good a company is, if they're going to run out of cash, that's a problem. But if you look at their balance sheet, you can see they have $3.9 million in cash. They have $46 million in short-term investments. And they have $82 million in inventory. So that is uranium that they could sell if they had to. So they have about $133 million in current assets. I consider most of that liquid. Their current liabilities are only $15 million. Their total liabilities are actually only $15.7 million against $133 million in current assets. So their current ratio is fantastic. Their liquidity is outstanding. So this is a company that invests in mining companies, makes relationships with mining companies, but they don't actually have the overhead of a mining company. So their total operational expenses were $1.4 million last quarter, $467,000 of which was non-cash compensation. So their actual cash required for the quarter from operations was less than $1 million. That's against $133 million in current assets. Again, I think the core thing is we're seeing a shift in the United States for the government to provide incentives for companies to buy more U.S. mined uranium. So I think we can expect to see exponential growth in uranium over the course of time. And I want to go back to this chart because the line here is so small in 2022 you can't see it. We did 3,000 pounds in the third quarter. And just remember, just in 2014, that was 8 years ago, we did close to 5 million pounds in that year. So that's certainly a realistic target. Back in 1996, we were doing over 6 million pounds. And really, with the amount of resources that the government is willing to throw into this industry in the way of credits and other variables, there's the potential to go beyond any of these numbers. So there is the potential to go from what is clearly our absolute all-time low in production of uranium to potentially reaching all-time highs in production in uranium. Uranium Royalty Corp already has their deals set up to get their portion of this revenue. Again, this is not financial advice. Please check the disclosures below for exact details regarding this video. So that's all I have for you on the Uranium Royalty Corporation. So please remember to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and of course you can become a member of the channel as well by hitting the join button. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.